Hello, Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 29 Social Movements, Meanings and Dimension, let us start our topic today, Components of Social Movement. M.S. Rao in his edited volume on social movements in India has highlighted the significance of ideology, collective mobilization, organization and leadership in social movements. Now let us discuss conventional components, ideology, mobilization, organization and leadership. Conventionally, ideology, collective mobilization, organization and leadership are identified with the vital elements of social movements. Ideology provides a broad framework of action and collective mobilization in the social movement. It also provides legitimacy to the process of interest articulation, organized collective action. There are different ways of formulating ideology in a social movement. However, in the context of new social movements, role of ideology has been a subject of close scrutiny. Some aspects of this issue we shall discuss in the next unit. Collective mobilization is again a central element of a social movement. The nature and direction of a social movement is widely shaped by the nature of collective mobilization. Collective mobilization may be radical, non-institutionalized, spontaneous, large scale, or it may be non-violent, institutionalized, sporadic, restricted. It may also undergo a process of transformation for radical to reformative or institutionalized. Routinization of charisma is an illustration to this point. Leadership and organization are closely linked to the process of collective mobilization. A leader can be a charismatic figure or a democratically elected one. In the context of new social movements, the issues of leadership, organization, ideology, and collective mobilization have acquired several new dimensions. For years, social movements as an area of legitimate sociological research have occupied a position of marginality both in the functionalist and Marxist paradigm. For the functionalist, social movements were sources of potential disruption to an entity. Here, only by assigning a marginal position to social movement was integrity of the functional theoretical system ensured. On the other hand, though the Marxist analysis is concerned with the social transformation, this has identified the classes as the sole agents of social transformation. Non-class movements are viewed critically and sometimes with contempt or hostility. Over the years, however, these single-order explanations have proved to be inadequate in analyzing the complexity of the phenomena of social movements, and a vast body of literature has emerged in this emerging area of social inquiry. These studies have made sincere efforts to comprehend the issues and dynamics of social movements by using cases from various parts of the world. Significantly, the dynamics and the components of the social movements, ideological orientation, organizational setup, patterns of mobilization, leadership, tactics of collective action, issues involved in the social movements and their linkages with the wider social processes and so on are critically scrutinized through their efforts to explain the phenomena of collective mobilization with new perspectives. Thus, in these efforts of the social scientist, there has been not only the quest for identification of the newness in the emerging social movements of the 1960s and thereafter, but also a genuine urge to locate the various elements of the commonalities in these episodes. Leadership and organization are closely linked to the process of collective mobilization. A leader can be a charismatic figure or a democratically elected one. In the context of new social movements, the issues of leadership, organization, ideology, and collective mobilization have acquired several new dimensions. Significantly, the dynamics and component of the social movements, ideologically orientation, organizational setup, patterns of mobilization, leadership, tactics of collective actions, issues involved in the social movement and their linkages with the wider social processes and so on are critically scrutinized through their efforts to explain the phenomena of collective mobilization with new perspectives. Thus, in these efforts of the social scientist, there has been not only the quest for identification of newness in the emerging social movements of 1960s and thereafter, but also a genuine urge to locate the various elements of commonalities in these episodes. Now the next point is new components, new ideas, collective identities and resources. In the context of the emergence of the new social movement, the issue of values, culture, subjectivity, idealism, morality, identity, empowerment, etc., have got new coinage and added prominence in these efforts. Thus, Butler's adds the view that subjectivity and idealism are essential elements of social movement and must be taken seriously. Similarly, social movements help generate a sense of collective identity and new ideas. Melosi has emphasized on the collective identity formation in the context of new social movement. To him, social movements grow around relationships of new social identity that are voluntarily conceived to empower members in defense of this identity. Everyman and Jamieson assert that by articulating consciousness, social movement provides public spaces for generating new thoughts, activating new actors, generating new ideas. To hazardous involvement in an action is a matter of consciousness and emotion, of responsibility. However, participation in social movements may not necessarily always be for the quest of an identity. Rather, it may be for the gratification of political and material interest. Tilly, McAdam, Tarot, and many others are of the view that social movement manifest in response to the increase in the potential political opportunities and growing receptivity of the state to the activities of the challenging group. In general, these social scholars emphasize the various resources involved in the manifestation of operationalization of social movements. Tilly, for example, identifies collective action in terms of the pursuit of the common interest which are typical of the social movement. This approach, known as the resource mobilization, assumes that collective actions are related to the specific opportunity structures. Here, importance is given on the rationality of human action, whereby the participants in the social movement calculate the cost and benefits of their participatory action in the collective mobilization. In this approach, social movements are seen either as the creation of entrepreneurs skillful in the manipulation or mobilization of social resources, or the playing out the social tensions and conflicts. Thus, the motivation of the actors is seen as rational economic action. The resource mobilization theory indeed aims to interpret those sets of social movements that are the visible parts of the American social reality in management terms. It is linked to the policy problem of containment. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.